I'm Lisa Annerley. I'm Head of Analytic Content at the Care Quality Commission, and in this video I'll be talking about how scoring features in our assessment model. I'll also be answering some frequently asked questions that we've had from providers to understand better how scoring works. But just before I start, I just want to clarify that this video does not apply to organisations that we do not have powers to rate. It focuses on those that we award ratings to. So look out for our other videos for our approach for how we assess these services. Okay, so I'm going to start with an overview of our scoring methodology. So we ask 5 key questions of services. We ask, are they safe? Are they effective? Are they caring? Are they responsive? And are they well led? And we describe our ratings using a 4-point scale from outstanding to good to requires improvement to inadequate. And we award an overall rating for a service based on a set of aggregation rules that takes into account our key question ratings. So far, no changes from the way we've been assessing and rating services for some time. But what has changed is that we now use a scoring framework to determine the ratings we award up to key question level. So why have we introduced this new framework? Well, we're looking to improve the consistency of our judgments, to be more transparent about the basis of those judgments at key question level, and also to improve the information and the detail of the information that we publish, both for the public, for providers, and to support providers to improve. So how does it work? So I'm just going to use a slide to talk you through this. So this slide basically plots our levels of scoring using our assessment framework, which is in the middle. So starting from the bottom left hand, we start our assessments by collecting and assessing evidence that maps to our evidence categories. That might be evidence we go out and collect directly ourselves, or it might be evidence we use from national sources or where people have contacted us. Once we've reviewed that evidence, we start by scoring the evidence categories. So our operations colleagues will assign a score from 1, which is the worst, to 4, which is the best, to each of the evidence categories which are required for a quality statement. Once those have been scored, we then use a calculation to determine the quality statement score, and that uses proportion of points scored out of the total points available. Once we have the quality statement score, we then calculate the key question score and associated rating. Again, we look at proportion of scores from the total amount that could have been scored. To assign the quality statement and the key question scores, we use some thresholds, and I'll show you those in just a moment. And then once we have the key question rating and score, we then apply what we call our aggregation rules to determine the overall rating for a provider or for a service. So on the right hand side, it shows you what we publish at each of those stages. So just going back to the evidence category level, this shows you the detail of how we actually calculate the evidence, the quality statement scores using the evidence categories. So we look at the evidence categories that have been set for a service for a quality statement, and these are the categories we'd usually expect to assess where we have new evidence. So in this example, we've got people's experience, feedback from staff and leaders, observation and processes that all have new evidence that's been collected. Scores are then assigned to each of those categories. And in this example, you can see the scores on the left-hand side. We have 3, 3, 3 and 2. That gives us a total of 11 out of a possible 16 that could have been scored. And that gives us the percentage of 69%, which equates to a quality statement score of 3. The scoring scale is also on the slide there and shows you the descriptors we've used for scoring evidence. Once we've got our quality statement scores, we then determine the key question rating using a very similar methodology for calculation that we've used for evidence category to quality statements. So in the example here, we show you in the table the 8 quality statements that are relevant and the scores that have been awarded. And then we show that gives us a total of 22 out of a possible 32 points that could have been awarded, which gives us 69%, and that maps the thresholds, which are on the right-hand side, of good. And then once we've got the safe key question has been rated as good, that's then used in the overall aggregation methodology to determine the overall rating. One thing to note is that the minimum score that can be achieved is 1, so there's always there's no scores that go below that level. So that's the overview of the scoring methodology. I think we've got some of our frequently asked questions to look at.
Can you describe how we'll apply scoring if a service hasn't had an assessment under the new methodology?
Okay, so our scoring methodology will only start to be applied once we've assessed at least one quality statement under the new assessment methodology. So until that point, our website will continue to display ratings based on the previous methodology, and there won't be any scores. But once we do start an assessment for at least one quality statement, there are a few things to bear in mind. So we've based our scoring methodology. Our scoring methodology builds on the existing judgments and ratings that we've published. We aren't starting from scratch. So to calculate a key question rating, we need to have all quality statements scored. And also to calculate a quality statement score, we need to have all evidence categories scored. But in most assessments, we won't look at all quality statements every time. So what we've done is we've created a mapping from ratings that are published ahead of us introducing the new methodology, and we've mapped those into the scores that we use for evidence categories, which then calculate the quality statement and allow us to continue to award ratings. And what we've done is we've mapped ratings based on a 4-point scale, and we apply those scores. So if a service is currently rated as inadequate for a key question, we'll map 1 to every single evidence category for that service. If they're rated as outstanding, we'll map 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 mapped to our ratings. And that information will continue to pull through and influence the rating for a service until we've updated or undertaken a new assessment of every quality statement.
How will CQC's teams be adopting this process consistently across the country?
Okay, well, I mean, as I said earlier in the video, one of the things we want scoring to help support is to improve the consistency of our judgments. But in terms of how we're adopting the methodology, we've developed our new systems and processes to reflect the scoring methodology that we've talked through earlier. So it's built into to our operating procedures and the way that we come to decisions on assessments. We also have a quality management approach, which includes appropriate quality assurance steps and sign off for our judgments before they are shared with providers. And that happens before we then make any final decisions and publish. And then scores set at evidence category are also shared with providers through what's called our factual accuracy process. So providers can see how that's been applied and which evidence categories have been scored to influence their ratings. Hopefully, it goes without saying that we're committed to learning and improving our model. And so we're also looking at feedback. We're looking at review of the pattern of scores that come in and checking how that's been applied across the country. And we'll continue to make improvements as we learn and roll and complete more and more assessments.
Could you explain how scores will be published?
Okay, well, so as soon as we've carried out an assessment under the new methodology, we will publish the 4-point scale, or the score that's been awarded for each of the quality statements that have been assessed. And that format is already on our website for any services that have been assessed under the new methodology. We're not publishing evidence category scores. We are sharing those with providers, but we don't think they're a useful summary for the public, so therefore we haven't included them at this stage. But we do have some planned improvements the way we display the information from scoring. So one of the things that we're looking to develop is new visualizations of the scoring information to make it clear where a service sits in the rating scale and in comparison with equivalent services, both nationally and locally. And we're also looking to develop separate profiles for services at the same location, but where we do not aggregate ratings to an overall level. So to give you an example of this, where a care home and a home care agency or a GP practice and out of hours GP service are provided from the same location. We're also looking to improve the way that that people coming to our website can refine search results using ratings and scores.
Can you describe how scoring a key question will work if you only look at some quality statements?
We've actually designed the system with this in mind because in our previous model, we would often not update the whole of our framework every time we undertook an assessment of a service. So because we are establishing a set of scores for all evidence categories and all quality statements, it means that we can just change one or two of our judgments, and that will still influence the rating for the key question and then subsequently the overall rating. So, for example, we may decide for a service that we're only going to look at 2 quality statements under the safe key question because we've received information of concern about those 2 quality statements, and we've recently undertaken an assessment of the other quality statements within the key question. So to do that, we start with the evidence category scoring. That contributes to the quality statement score, and then that can update the key question rating. So in the new model, it's much more flexible. We can show when we undertook that judgment, but we don't need to assess every quality statement within every key question each time.
Can you describe as to how scores will lead to overall ratings?
So our approach to determining overall ratings hasn't changed in our new methodology. That continues to be driven by the key question ratings. So a service is safe, effective, caring, responsive and well led. And then we apply our aggregation rules, which have been in place for some years now. And that looks at the pattern of ratings to determine the overall rating. One of the things that we aren't applying for the overall rating any further in the new model are limiters. So we used to have some specific criteria that we'd apply in determining that overall rating, but in the new model, we only take the key question ratings to do that.
More masterclass videos will be coming to our YouTube channel soon. In the meantime, you can stay up to date by signing up to Citizen Lab, our digital online platform, to share your expertise, experience and thoughts through discussions, reviewing documents, polls, surveys and idea boards. Sign up to receive our provider bulletins and blogs for your sector direct to your inbox. And for the most immediate information, follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at CQC Prof. And finally, you can listen to all of our latest episodes of our podcast, CQC Connect, via your favourite podcast provider.